A pleasure to have the opportunity to tell you about an organization that I founded about 4 years ago, which is Cardiol Therapeutics. Basically, we are a pharmaceutical CBD company. We've developed one of the largest supply chains for the manufacture of pure pharmaceutical CBD in the world. But in addition, we're a drug innovator. So we're developing new ways to make this important medicine work better. We come from 25 years of developing heart failure medicines, and we've developed new ways to transport the anti-inflammatory properties of this important CBD molecule directly to inflamed tissue in the heart. But to complement that program, as we develop that through FDA trials, we also have an opportunity before us to commercialize the purest, what we believe to be the purest form of CBD in the world today at the highest manufacturing standards. So looking to this year, we are positioned to launch our pharmaceutical CBD program in the second half of this year, commercially introducing this into the growing medicinal market here in Canada and initially internationally. We have scaled our production capability to metric ton level, meaning this year we can make 1 million pure grams of pharmaceutical CBD at 100% purity, and next year scale that to 5 metric tons and beyond. We're developing new sciences around CBD, new ways to deliver it, both in terms of heart disease and potentially in brain cancer, where we have an early stage research program. And we've established an international research network made up of thought leaders in nanomedicine, cardiovascular sciences, and inflammation or inflammatory disease in general. And it is that international network that is driving the ultimate development of our products. And towards the end of the presentation, I'll introduce you to the management team, board, and scientific advisory board, which provide guidance to this company as we grow. So our two major product streams they're both unique CBD therapies. So essentially we have a pharmaceutical CBD therapy, which we believe will set a new standard in terms of product consistency, purity, and manufacturing standards, which we'll be introducing to the growing billion-dollar medicinal cannabinoid market here in this country. And then we're also positioned through our global partners, our manufacturing partners, to introduce this internationally in markets of Europe and Latin America. And we also have a state-of-the-art nanotechnology program in heart failure medicine, where we're targeting the leading cause of death and disability in the Western world, which is heart failure, with a nano formulation of pharmaceutical CBD. So looking first at our Cardiol X program, which is our commercial program due for launch in the second half of this year, history has taught us that to make any new medicine ultimately accessible and available in scale, economically, and at a price point so it can truly be accessible to patients, consumers, physicians, you need to make it through pharmaceutical development processes. Numerous drugs originate in the plant, aspirin being the typical example, which has now been made through pharmaceutical processes at a high level of purity and is accessible globally. We've created the same supply chain for CBD. So we are partnered with the largest narcotics manufacturer in the world, which is Aramco, based in Delaware. Based in Wilmington, Delaware. They also have enormous manufacturing capabilities in Switzerland to provide global reach. They're the largest narcotics manufacturer in the world. To put that in perspective, they make all the codeine that goes into Tylenol for Johnson & Johnson worldwide. They also have the largest scalable footprint for the manufacture of pure pharmaceutical CBD and other cannabinoids that are all the subject of a drug master file with the Food and Drug Administration. So this is an FDA-sanctioned manufacturing facility. We also have a global partnership with Dalton Pharmaceuticals. They've been manufacturing and formulating pharmaceutical cannabinoids for over a decade. They're the manufacturer of Nabilone for this country, which is a $100 million prescription here in Canada alone. They bring an enormous base. They're an FDA-certified, Health Canada-approved CGMP manufacturer, and they have the capability to scale to supply the global market. And we see initially introducing our CBD product into this supply-constrained market here in Canada, which is now estimated to exceed $1 billion on the prescription side. So this company is purely focused on medicine. Recent StatsCan survey conducted in Q4 of last year concluded that one of the major concerns of consumers of cannabinoid products is their quality and their safety. We plan to answer that concern with the purest form of this product. So this is 100% purity formulation. It's engineered to be THC-free, and when we say THC-free, we mean below Health Canada's 10 parts per million detection limit. Otherwise, a black box warning is required on the product alerting of the contents of THC. We're actually below 1 part per million THC, so there's zero detectable THC. This formulation is engineered to remain THC-free. Like all pharmaceuticals, it's odorless and tasteless. Any taste in this formulation would be what we would add to it. And most importantly, it's manufactured under full CGMP by an FDA, Health Canada, European-approved global manufacturer. We plan to initially launch in 2 dosage forms. Like all pharmacy products, you have a standard dose and you have a high dose form. So to put this into perspective, our second formulation, the 100 mg per mil, is chemically identical to Epidiolex, which is the therapy approved in the United States for the treatment of epilepsy. And we ultimately see targeting this at the growing consumer base and ultimately at physicians, where we can detail the purity profile and the manufacturing capabilities of this organization to deliver a pure medicine which physicians, pharmacists, healthcare providers, and ultimately consumers can trust and rely upon. We see an opportunity to speak to the intermediaries between the ultimate user of this product and the prescriber by detailing the benefits of our purity profile, and ultimately drive prescription revenues through pharmacy distribution networks in this country and other points of sale. And then beyond the opportunity in Canada, we see a unique opportunity to globally expand with interesting market opportunities, both in the growing market of Europe, primarily Germany, and Latin America, with a particular focus on Mexico, where we have a vast research network supporting development programs. So that's basically our commercial program. We plan to introduce pharmaceutical CBD, our Cardiol RX brand, in the second half of this year into this large prescription market here in Canada, and then expand internationally. But we also have a high-value proposition developing in the area of heart failure. Heart failure, by any measure, is one of the largest medical problems facing Western civilization. It's driven by obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. All those factors are on the rise, and that is driving the heart failure epidemic. Very high mortality rate in this patient population, 30% within 1 year, 50% within 5, and it's the #1 reason patients are hospitalized each and every year in the United States, driving over $30 billion in healthcare expenditures. There have been no treatment advances in 50% of this category, which is diastolic heart failure. So in simplistic terms, there's 2 types of heart failure. One is where the heart doesn't pump properly, and one is where the heart doesn't fill properly. It doesn't relax normally. So one is a pump problem, one is an empty pump problem. The empty pump problem, which is diastolic heart failure, you get this fibrous thickening in the left ventricle because the heart is overworked, because it's pumping against high blood pressure. And like any muscle, when you work it in a gym, it grows. You don't want that to happen to the heart because muscle tissue is fibrous. It can't relax properly, it becomes inflamed, and that leads to the progressive mortality and morbidity associated with this disease. So the goal of any new therapy is to deliver drugs specifically to that inflamed tissue. As this disease progresses, fluid builds up in the lungs, and these patients succumb to a phenomena similar to suffocation if they're not administered to the ER for high-dose diuretics. So in order to get this important medicine and the anti-inflammatory properties of cannabidiol into the heart tissue, we worked with the Nanomedicine Institute of the University of Alberta for the past 3 years. They had developed a nanocarrier to deliver to tumors. What the failing heart and a tumor have in common is they both have inflamed tissue. So they had developed a targeting technology to transport drugs lipophilic molecules like cannabidiol. It's a fat-soluble molecule. Our blood is aqueous. Our blood is like water. So basically with this technology, we've converted this to a hydrophilic or a water-like chemical. So it's not rapidly cleared in the systemic circulation, and ultimately it can traffic to sites of inflammation. We then went to the world-leading DeBakey Heart Center to test this technology's ability to target inflamed heart tissue. This is the home of the first heart transplant performed in the United States. They're world leaders in heart failure medicine. And they run an inflammatory heart failure model there. You can see, as mentioned earlier, the normal heart is about half the size of the failing or the dying hearts because these hearts are overworked against vascular resistance caused by high blood pressure. When we tagged our nanoparticles with a fluorescent tag that can only be picked up on three-dimensional imaging at DeBakey, they only accumulated in the dying hearts because what a normal heart and a dying heart does not have in common is inflammation. So this demonstrated the hypothesis that we could target this important right the site of disease. And we are now running a very extensive research program at the Nanomedicine Institute at TechSalou, which is basically Latin America's largest private research network. They're partnered with MIT, the DeBakey Heart Center, and University of Calgary to develop improved therapeutic advantages for cardiovascular disease. And this institute is funding a $3 million research program on Cardiol's behalf. They selected our nanotechnology to fund with their large endowment to improve medical care. This also provides a gateway into the vast potential markets in Latin America for our organization because it's one of the most highly regarded research institutes in that community. So we have now nanoformulated 3 different formulations. Our lead formulation is pharmaceutical cannabidiol. This is a pure pharmaceutical nanoformulated to transport this drug and target it at dying heart tissue in cardiovascular disease. We also have 2 other formulations in development at earlier stage. One is a heart transplant drug, and one is another antifibrotic drug, which has been used widely in rheumatoid arthritis. So in terms of the key development milestones going forward, we plan to sign distribution agreements. We're in discussions with many with respect to all points of sale with a particular focus on pharmacy distribution networks. We believe medicine ideally finds its home in pharmacies. That's where most folks look to purchase their medicines. So we ideally see a pharmaceutical CBD product ideally positioned in the pharmacy distribution chain. We plan to launch Cardiol RX in the second half of this year, which we believe will set the highest standard in product purity, manufacturing capability. Every drop of medicine that we produce is chemically identical to every other drop because it's manufactured under full validated CGMP manufacturing processes. We plan to initiate a global heart failure program where we're looking at inflammatory heart disease to build brand awareness of our Cardiol RX brand because ultimately we see CBD as anti-inflammatory. That's why it's being used as an alternative to non-steroidal anti-inflammatories in osteoarthritis, but ideally we see it as cardioprotective and an enormous market opportunity to develop it. And then we see expanding internationally by offering this product into Europe and Latin America. Management team, I've worked in the therapeutics medicine development area for 25 years. I founded a heart failure company in 1990 where we took a new medicine from the test tube all the way through multi-center international trials involving 3,000 patients. We raised about $300 million for that venture. Anthony Bolton is an immunologist with 40 years experience in studying immune system regulation and how it regulates inflammation. So importantly, CBD works through the immune system. So it delivers its anti-inflammatory properties through an immune mechanism, not a prostaglandin mechanism, which causes vasoconstriction. Eldon Smith is one of Canada's foremost experts in cardiology. He headed Canada's Health Heart Strategy. He received the Order of Canada for that role. And he is the Dean of the University of Calgary former Dean of the University of Calgary Medical School. Ann Tomlin has presided over several drugs through the United States Food and Drug Administration. She oversees our regulatory affairs, where she has over 30 years experience. Tom Moffat recently joined us as Chief Commercial Officer. He comes from 25 years of pharmacy operations with over 20 years at Canada's largest pharmacy, Shoppers Drug Mart. Dolly Kao is a very talented patent attorney. She's licensed to practice patent law in Canada, the United States. She's developed patent portfolios for the pharmaceutical industry for 25 years. She is developing our patent estate, and she's also a chemist. Blagosia Ostevsky oversees our manufacturing engineering with over 25 years experience, and Chris Waddock's our Chief Financial Officer, 15 years of life science experience in running a public company. In addition to Eldon Smith, we have incredible cardiovascular expertise in Dr. Guillermo Torriamione. He's an immunologist, cardiologist, heads the largest heart transplant unit in the world at the DeBakey Heart Center. He's also president of Tuxtla in Monterrey, Mexico, which provides a gateway into that growing market. Peter Picos is the owner, founder, and CEO of Dalton Pharmaceuticals, our global partner for the manufacture of pharmaceutical CBD. Ian Chalmers brings 25 years of branding experience. He was with Gillette, Diageo, and Procter & Gamble, where he built world-leading brands. Deborah Brown is 25 years in the pharmaceutical industry. Our scientist, I assume that's telling me to hurry up? No. Oh, it's not? Oh, wow. Okay. Our scientific advisory board, just briefly, is chaired by James Young. He heads the largest heart failure unit in the world at the Cleveland Clinic. Afsanalis Manafar heads pharmaceutical sciences and pharmacology at University of Alberta. She co-developed our nanotechnology to deliver CBD to the heart. Graham Pockley is an immunologist, oncologist, we're co-developing a CBD formulation to target a brain cancer. And then John Howlett heads the largest diastolic heart failure practice in North America. Our cap structure, we recently IPO'd on the Toronto Stock Exchange right in the eye of the fourth quarter storm on December 20th. Very challenging financial market. Just got that done before Santa Claus arrived. We have a conservative cap structure. We have an alarm. It is being investigated. Okay, so insider ownership is about 33%. Our pharmaceutical partners own 8%. So Dalton Naramco is the largest participant in our IPO. They took 30% of the issue, and Dalton's a 4% stakeholder. Cash and cash equivalents, the end of the year, we had $17 million in cash. That provides 2 years of capital to support our programs, does not contemplate any inflows from revenue, and that does not contemplate the $6 million asset on our balance sheet, which is prepaid inventory, which is the pure API to manufacture our commercial product. Key industry participants that we've modeled our strategy off of, GW Pharma demonstrated to the world that you could build a $7 billion value proposition using the United States orphan drug approval process. They took CBD through regulatory development under 4 years. For epilepsy, we see the same opportunity to do this in rare forms of myocarditis, which is an inflammatory heart disease where we have a great deal of specialty. Other organizations focused on CBD or antifibrotic pathways in the case of Corbus. Insys is a pharmaceutical CBD player, and all enjoying significant value cap appreciation over the past several years. So just to summarize, we plan to introduce commercially in the second half of this year the largest scalable, purest form of pharmaceutical CBD in the world, initially into the Canadian prescription market, then broaden that globally. We have demonstrated the ability to scale to multi-metric ton where true economies of pharmaceutical margins can enter into. We can manufacture this product at 100% purity at a lesser cost than the botanical world can provide it. And we can ensure its purity and its consistency. We're developing new novel approaches to heart medicine and brain cancer. We're partnered with who we believe is the ideal global partner to partnerships at the university setting to develop these therapeutics, ultimately under FDA trials later this year. And we've pulled together a team comprising management board and scientific advisory board to provide stewardship to this organization. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thank you.